It's really easy actually to get into a debt spiral with energy, really difficult to get out of it.
I'm Carolyn Parrs, communicator, coach, and host of Just Power, a podcast about creating a clean energy future without leaving anyone behind. Join me as we explore the technologies, policies, and human stories that can make clean energy not just sustainable for our planet, but accessible for everyone. Nobel Prize-winning chemist Ilya Prigogine discovered something remarkable about how change really happens. He said, when complex systems are far from equilibrium, sound familiar? Small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the entire system to a higher order. Small islands of coherence can shift everything. This isn't just chemistry. This is how transformation works. We're witnessing chaos on a massive scale in this country and the world. But within the chaos lie pockets of clarity, of purpose, of organized action that can tip everything to a higher order, to something life-affirming, to something transformational. And this podcast explores those islands of coherence, the movements, the ideas, the voices of those who understand that real change doesn't come from trying to control the chaos, but from finding inside the chaos order and working the order within it. Today on my podcast, I will be featuring some of those change makers I have had the pleasure and honor of interviewing who are doing just that. Dr. Tony Reames you'll be hearing from, Jeff Ackermann, Dr. Diana Hernández, Jeff Allen, Pamela Fann, and Jennifer Greimert, and all the folks that they work with who are those small islands of coherence. This is their wake-up call to all of us. Welcome to Just Power.
I think at the brass level, just kind of base level understanding, we're talking about communities that have high energy burdens, spend a large proportion of their income on energy costs. And so those are communities that are spending more than 6% of their income on energy. That's considered unaffordable. But we know in communities, a lot of African-American communities or low-income communities, households are spending 10, 20, 30. We found people spending more than 50% of their income on energy costs, either because their homes are totally inefficient, their systems are inefficient, or the energy rates are just too high in the places that they live, and they're either in cold weather states or super hot states and need a lot of heating or cooling. One of the other disadvantages that communities face is hosting dirty energy sites, right? People looking out of their window at smokestacks from coal plants. And then a lot of times those same communities can see the energy being generated, but are less likely to be able to afford it. And so you have this kind of benefit burden imbalance between communities. They see energy being made and going to power other communities that can afford it, and they're choosing between heating their homes or buying food. And so those are some of the challenges and disparities that we see, or inequities that we see when it comes to energy and community. I often credit elders in Kansas City, Missouri, where I was doing my dissertation research at the time, with sitting me down and talking about their energy affordability challenges, talking about their fear of participating in government programs to increase their energy efficiency, because they had seen previous iterations of government programs where people lost their homes because of nefarious activities like second mortgages to put in new windows or put in insulation. And so it was this culmination of, concern about energy costs, recognizing that their homes were inefficient, but then this fear and unwillingness to want to participate in current programs. And so that really got me thinking about the intersections of energy, which is something we view as very technical, but it has all these social elements to what makes it successful.
When I was running the state's weatherization program and my colleague was running the state's payment assistance program, we decided the fact that at that time we had 100 to 110,000 households at the peak qualified and received that. But we knew there was many more out there, so we conducted a study through a third party and had them survey folks that didn't apply. And why didn't they apply? This is free money. And what was fascinating, if pause a minute and think at your own, why would you not apply if someone said, hey, I will give you money for your utility bill, you need to fill out this form? And it was fascinating, the insights we gained from that, to realize that it was, in effect, fear. It was fear of exposing your story is the first part. And then the greater fear was, I'm going to be vulnerable, and then you're going to reject me anyway.
It's really easy actually to get into a debt spiral with energy, really difficult to get out of it. Because that's true for a lot of, ways in which American households are in debt around student debt, around health related expenses, credit cards, because this is really fundamentally rooted in an economic hardship. So my hope for the book is that we start to elevate the conversation to include people, that we don't take for granted that everybody, gets their utility bill and either doesn't pay attention to it, it's automatically debited, no issue, no worries. Because for some people, it is so challenging month in and month out to face the reality or the threat of a disconnection because of non-payment. Because of the juggling and the difficult choices that people are making that often land them in this place where they're at risk for this. And I think, societally, we have to ask ourselves the question, is this the right way to deal with, and I'm talking specifically about the practice of disconnections, to penalize people that are unable to meet their energy needs? Because at some point we've moved away from punitive measures, even in the criminal justice system. And yet this is one instance where we're very much penalizing the poor and they don't really have options and alternatives in terms of a safety net. The other thing that makes this timely, which I couldn't have actually anticipated, was the fact that, we have an energy safety net that is really comprised of two programs, one bigger than the other, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP, and the Weatherization Assistance Program. And LIHEAP is the one that I'll talk about. It sits under the Department of Health and Human Services, now overseen by Secretary Kennedy. And ultimately, last month, so April, when this book came out, you had the beginning of the month, the staff, which I would call them skeletal staff, of the backbone of the energy safety net, which is LIHEAP, were let go. So 14 staff members distributing about $4 billion across 50 states and territories were let go. And then later on in the month, the Trump proposed the proposed budget under the new administration also basically zeroed out the program and said it was redundant and ineffective. Well, that's really problematic, given that what is the alternative? Churches, other people within a certain social network. We don't really have a robust enough social safety net or energy safety net that's even more specific. Unlike food, you can't really go to an energy pantry, even though that's one of the solutions or the suggestions for how to overcome energy insecurity is through new innovations. But right now we don't really have that infrastructure. And so to me, it's pretty cruel.
Low-income people and people of color are much more likely to have had big roads punched through their neighborhoods. They were there first. And regardless of the reasons, we see, if you look at communities now, low-income communities, people of color, this shows up in a lot of different ways. So for starters, much more likely to be in areas with a lot of air pollution, a lot of roads, much more likely to live in areas without very good transit service or very good bicycle facilities, because that's not where those investments have been made historically. Much more likely to have trouble accessing a vehicle loan. The car loan industry, especially for used cars, is rife with abuse and institutional racism. So that just face a lot more barriers to accessing transportation and mobility. Oh, and also much less likely to have the services that they need nearby, right? So if you heard about food deserts, whole neighborhoods where there is no grocery store and it's hard to access those services. So a lot more barriers that are faced. And again, if you can design programs or design strategies that try and overcome those barriers for those communities, they're going to work much better for other folks too.
If you look back through history and you look at our systems and the way that energy systems were put together, there has always been an injustice, and most of it, yes, was systematically and racially influenced for there to be those injustices. If we talk about redlining and how people of color were placed in undesirable communities or communities where there were environmental concerns or dumping or problems, or there was lack of access to transportation or a lack of access to clean drinking water or lack of access to affordability or like a strong grid or a reliable grid. So we have to really make that acknowledgement that there was an injustice somewhere. Does that mean that's fully where we are today, that people are intentionally making injustices as they did back then? Not necessarily, right? There might not be intention, but we still have to go back and remediate all the things that happened before in order to make it equitable.
It may just be someone lost a job and they just need help paying their bill once or twice, right? Or they had a health crisis or a divorce or something that affected their financial situation. Then we have folks that are older adults or disabled that, are on a fixed income. And as you see other prices rise, the pressure on the available dollars in someone's pocket to be able to pay all these rising bills just keeps exacerbating. And so this is where, we need to have, be thinking broadly on how we work across all of these poverty reduction issues and affordability issues. But I will say, in the 25 years I've been doing this work, energy as a percent of income has just dramatically increased.
I do believe that, the challenges in the moment are so critical, right? Here in the U.S., we're seeing both sides of our country are on fire, literally, right? I don't think I've ever seen that where we have, wildfires on the West Coast and the East Coast at the same time. And so I think there's an urgency in this moment. And I think there's a recognition and a reckoning with justice, particularly here in the U.S. and across the globe, I think, that are requiring us to think differently about the path forward.
So good. So good. So good. So what are you helping to shift to a higher order? I'd love to know. Go ahead. Put it in the comments. Are you brave enough? Go ahead. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. You matter. We're all in this together, right? Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to Just Power wherever you get your podcasts. And if you really loved it, leave us a review and tell everyone you know about our podcast. It's going to take all of us to create a clean energy future that leaves no one behind.